Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right, so Surah al-Falaq and Surah an-Nas have got a common theme, and therefore I thought we'll do a bit on both, but with the emphasis on Falaq in particular. So al-Falaq means the daybreak, and an-Nas means humankind. So in a nutshell, Surah al-Falaq is a surah revealed in Medina consisting of 5 ayat. It talks about, in the opening line, Kul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Now, we had the word a'udhu before, when we read the a'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim, that the a'udhu as we know it to be. Now, this surah as well as the next surah, because they both start off with Kul a'udhu bi rabbi, they are known as what is called the mu'awwizatain, meaning the two surahs that seek protection from evil forces around us. And that's why they are called mu'awwizatain, and we are encouraged to read these two surahs for our own protection. So essentially this surah is about, it says, we seek protection, or Kul, I seek protection in the Lord of. Falaq has got many sort of shades of meaning. In this context, it means the one that breaks a day. In other words, the one that causes the sun to rise and a new day to dawn. So Allah is in control of that magnificent event happening on a daily basis, and we are seeking protection from only Him who can do that particular thing, which is allow daybreak to dawn, and with it bring some optimism in our lives. Then it goes on to the second ayah, which says, Min sharri ma khalaq. So we're seeking protection in Allah from all these things. That's why you have min in the next 4 lines. Min, the evil of this and the evil of that. So there are 4 evils that we are seeking protection of from Allah. And essentially they are as follows. From the evil of what He has created. Now our belief is that He has created good and evil and has got power over everything as well. So in whatever evil there is in the world as well, He knows what it is. He has created it and is there sometimes as a test for us. But we seek protection in Allah to save us from these evils. So the one is just generally what He has created. So the second evil is وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ, from the evil of a dark night. The ghasiq, is when the night is like pitch dark, and especially when it goes into like late in the night when it settles, like when night is in its full force, in its full glory, as it were, where it's pitch dark. So like something like 3 hours after sunset, when that night gets really dark and going through into the early hours of the morning, this is the ghasiqin idha waqab. So that's the part of the evil that we're seeking protection against, because a lot of evil gets done at that particular time of the night. Then the third evil we're seeking protection is sharrin nafathat. Now, nafatha is to spit on something, and normally witches or people who indulge in witchcraft, they create a potion and they like kind of spit on it and do an incantation or like a dua or a spell on that particular thing that they have tied a knot on, and then that will hopefully cast a spell on that person or that business or whatever the operation that they're trying to affect in a negative way. So these are the female sort of witches who blow on knots. That's the other evil that we're seeking protection on. And the last one is just in general, min sharri hasidin. So any evil, like any envious person, when he envies. So this is the first surah, the Surah al-Falaq. So Falaq can mean daybreak, it can mean the rising day, or the new, dawning of a new day. So this is Falaq in a nutshell. We then move on to Surah an-Nas, which also starts with Kul a'udhu bi rabbi, and then you notice the word Nas appearing there almost 5 times. So we're seeking again protection of the Lord of the person or the deity that controls the whole of humankind. All the actions that everybody does, He's in charge, He's in control, He nourishes, sustains them, etc. Also, the other quality that Allah has is He's the Malik in Nas, He's the sovereign or the king of all of humanity. And He's also the deity or the God of all of humanity. So these are the three qualities specifically related to His Shan or His magnificence, that He's the Rabb, the Malik, and the Ilah. We had Rabb in Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Then we had Maliki Yawmiddin, and then Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, the Ilah concept coming out there in Surah Fatiha as well. So these are the three qualities specifically referring to Allah and His greatness. Then it asks for saving us from one evil, min sharri. This word sharri appears again here. And then which evil is this? This is a waswas, a whisperer, somebody who tends to sort of put ideas into our minds and into our hearts, evil ideas. And then he's a khannas as well. Khannas means he's a sneaky kind of a person. He operates in a way where he tries to say something, he tries to influence, he tries to give us an idea, he plants a seed or whatever. He tries to create evil, sort of with evil intention in our minds, tries to convince us to do some evil. And if we sort of protect ourselves against that wiswas of the shaitan, then we will be saved. But if we don't and we fall prey to that temptation, then obviously we've allowed this wiswas person to actually enter the suduri nas, the chest of our bodies, because the heart is protected by the chest. And if we allow the shaitan, the wiswas of the shaitan to enter that section, then it obviously go into our hearts, and then we'll actually do that evil that he was suggesting to us to do. So we need to block him at the point of him trying to just enter our chests to get to our hearts. And this wiswas can come from two areas. It can come from the jinn, especially the evil jinn that's out there, as well as people that can be evil. So that's why it's talking of in the last ayah, we're seeking protection from these wiswas kind of people that are from amongst the jinn and amongst men. And this surah is called An-Nas because of the word Nas repeating itself 5 times. Now, why are we doing these two together? It's because the theme about these two surahs is about protection against evil forces, witchcraft, magic, etc., etc. And we look at that more in detail now. Right, so the background is essentially we are seeking protection only in one deity, which is Allah. No one else can really help us. And what we're seeking protection from are the 4 evils mentioned in Surah al-Falaq and the 1 evil mentioned in Surah An-Nas. So Falaq talks about the problems that man is afflicted with, and he's got no real control over them. They are outside of his domain of influence. So man can't really control the evils of the night or the evils of the witchcraft, those magicians that are doing things, as well as the person who is jealous about something that you have. You really have no control over that. So you've got to accept that, but at the same time seek Allah's protection against those things. As far as Surah An-Nas goes, those are the problems that are sort of specifically for human beings. And me and you have some sort of control and authority and responsibility over, and we can stop the wiswas of the shaitan from having an influence on our actions by putting an end to it and doing other things instead of what the wiswas of the shaitan is actually telling us to do. So there's, in a sense, there's more desperation in the Surah An-Nas because this quality of the wiswas can damage our iman. And we need to seek protection at all times from the Rabb, the Malik, and the Ilah, that is Allah. One of the things that we need to control, and we can control, is keep our egos in check, keep our desires under control, not fall prey to temptations. Those are the things that we have control over. So in a sense, both surahs start from a grand opening to the narrowing down to specific evils that we need to be have control over. So once again, in Falaq, Allah has created all evil, and then we have to seek protection from the activities that take place in the darkness of the night, and those who blow on knots, and those who are jealous people. Now, the surahs were revealed in Medina uh, uh, after Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where if you remember Hudaybiyah, the treaty signed where Meccans were no longer an obstacle or the source of trouble for the Prophet. They at least signed a 10-year peace agreement, so the Quraysh were out of the problem area. But now came a new problem from within Medina, which is the Jews in Khaybar made offensive strategies, and they became the new enemy. Now, the background to these two surahs is the Jews from Khaybar came to a person called Labid ibn Asim. He was a munafiq, a hypocrite, to ask for help to do something evil to the Prophet. So they pay a Jewish boy to get some strands of the Prophet's hair from a comb that he used. Then they went to a magician to say, and they normally take pins and they tie the hair up with pins and create a kind of like a concoction, and then they blow on it. They use that nafathat, they blow the spit on it and stop. They pray on it, and then they take that concoction and they took it, in this case, to a well in Medina called Duarwani, and placed that particular product that they had made under a rock. And after that thing was done and placed there, they say there were narrations about how the Prophet ﷺ felt after this thing happened. He felt very like perturbed inside, troubled, thought he had did something, but it wasn't actually done. And he just felt like a squeezing of something inside his body. And Aisha radiallahu anhu, his wife at the time, reports that Allah sent two angels in the form of human beings. They informed the Prophet that this Labid ibn Asim did this particular concoction and thing, and it's buried somewhere. And these 11 ayat, the 5 from Falaq and the 6 from Surah An-Nas, make it 11 ayat in total. And this concoction happened to have 11 knots as well. So the Prophet ﷺ sends Bilal and Ali to find this particular thing. They go to this well, they find the item, they untie the knots, and after that, the Prophet ﷺ felt relief and no longer the constriction that he was feeling in his body. So if you look at it, these are the two surahs that protect us from these kinds of evil people that just uh, want to do evil to you. And you can imagine the personality of the Prophet, the person who never harmed a soul. People even had jealousy over him or something or the other. They couldn't see him succeed. They couldn't see his message flourishing. They couldn't see him thriving in Medina like he was thriving with the Sahabas. So all in all, there are people who are jealous just to stop your message being promoted, stop you advancing, stop you from being successful. So in that sense, we take a big lesson from this particular event, that when something does happen like this to any of us individually or to members in our family, we need to see that we get some attention or get some relief for them by going to people that can help us in this. And also in our own way, we must have a habit of reading these two mu'awwizatayn, the Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, in the mornings, in the evenings, and especially at nights before we sleep. And also we should try and sleep with wudu to keep us away from these evil influences. Right, so these verses are a cure from all sorcery and witchcraft. Right, so the concepts we're going to come across in these two surahs are essentially related to all forms of black magic, sorcery, witchcraft, jadoo as we know it as well, where people use voodoo dolls and a whole lot of other things. And they go to people like some gomas and they ask them to do evil on somebody else. In other words, they can't see a marriage succeed, or somebody young just got married and they can't see them thriving as a couple. They go there to say, do something so that the marriage breaks up. And lo and behold, after a few months, you find a newly married couple suddenly end up in a divorce, where sometimes this was happening in the background. So what we should be doing when we know of anything of this, where something just strange has happened to somebody who are good people or good persons individually, we need to go to see in the Muslim communities, we've got armies or helpers, people who go into these kinds of cases. They use the help of good jinn that they have under their control, and they are able to identify what the problem is, and they try and help you finding a solution for the problem. And the good amils will also not tell you who it was, just so that there's no hatred after that between you and that person who actually did this thing to you. So it's best you don't know who the person was, but you're getting the help anyway to sort your problem out. Now, when you look at jinn are those creation of Allah, like the angels. They are made of fire that don't have smoke, and they can appear in the form of even human beings. And there are two types of jinn. You have the good jinn and then the evil jinn. Now, the good jinn, you remember the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam in the Quran, where he had many jinn under his control. He had, in the one verse, they talk of divers and builders and, people that could work for him, do whatever he wanted, control the winds, take him to places in no time, carry things like a throne of Bilqis from Yemen right down to Palestine where Suleiman was based. So there was like supernatural things that he could do with the help of good jinnat that were under his control. And Allah gave him the power to have this control over good jinn. Then we have evil jinn as well, which now if you look at the story of Musa alayhi salam, there were many, the witchcraft was kind of the order of the day. There were many famous sorcerers and, people that indulge in this kind of witchcraft. And you all know the story that when Musa alayhi salam came to Pharaoh to preach to him, then the Pharaoh asked that let's get all our sorcerers here because we think Musa he's also a sorcerer, and let's see who's got the better sorcery or who's the stronger of the two, whether it's Musa, who claims to be a messenger of Allah, or the sorcerers we have in Egypt at the time. And there was that showdown between the two forces, and obviously Musa, with the help of Allah, succeeded in overpowering these evil sorcery and witchcraft that those sorcerers did. And they actually accepted Islam as a result of seeing what Musa was able to do, where his staff gobbled up the evil that these other sorcerers were able to do. So we have these jinnat as a creation of Allah that's in our midst, and essentially we need to be safeguarded from them as well. And that's why we advise not to go out at nights too late and go to places where this influence can sort of land on us or land on our children. Billah. Right now, the few Arabic words related to all this is the one is Sahara. Sahara means to bewitch or to charm or to enchant somebody. And Yasharu is the present tense, so Sahara is a past tense to he bewitched, right? And from there we get the noun called Sihr, which means bewitchment or sorcery or magic. Now, obviously, the people in Pharaoh's time, many of them used to enact sihr. They were able to produce sorcery in front of people, and so we talked of that just now. Right, then we have ruqya. Ruqya is a chant or a shirk incantation. In other words, the thing that these sangomas or magicians or sorcerers stalk, they invoke the shaitans and the whatever evil powers that they deal with to be able to do the evil that they want to do. So Ruqya is just that chant, that reading that they do in order to make that thing or that concoction that will have the effect that they want it to have. Then we have another concept called Ain or Nazar. Ain is an eye, and normally it's the eye of jealousy or the evil eye as we know it. And Nazar is also something that, where people can't see somebody doing something, and they just look at it with an evil look. And that sometimes also creates an evil sort of environment to that particular thing that they're doing or what they have. Now, Yaqub alayhi salam in the Quran tells his sons, don't enter through one gate, in the days of the famine in Egypt. And when they entered the storehouses in Egypt, he didn't want others to think that he's got so many sons and they such a big family and they so like well, kind of well off or something, or maybe they're able to get more of the grains that were being given out by the King Yusuf at the time. So he asked them to split and go to different, all because he as a prophet could also see the fact that there were people watching all the time, and there was nazar and ain being cast on this family of Yaqub alayhi salam, and Yusuf was one of his sons. Right, then we have the concept nafatha, yanfuthu, which means to spit or to discharge or to exude a small amount of spit onto something. Now, normally when people want to read something and they blow, and they will say you must blow on it. Sometimes you blow just with the exhalation of your, the air in your lungs, but sometimes they take a bit of spit and they exhale the spit as well with that breath on that thing that they trying to sort of do some work on, right? And naphtha is that little bit of spit that comes out. And nafathat are the female sorcerers. This atun and atin at the end of a word shows the female plural. So that's why it says female sorcerers who blow on something to do their witchcraft. Now, this doesn't mean that only females do this, but men can also do it. There you call them nafathuna, like somebody, the male counterpart of nafathat. Right, and the other concept is hasad, which is to do with jealous. Hasada yahsudu. And hasad itself is the noun, means jealousy. Now, here, jealousy and envy, you get of two types. The one which is like kind of not harmful is the one where, say, if you see somebody who is more endowed than you are, maybe they have better looks, maybe they have a good profession, maybe they have more wealth, maybe they're just more happy. And say if you look at them and you don't have uh, like a negative feeling about it. In other words, you don't want them to have less of what they have already. Right? So you wish them well in the fact that they are so endowed, so blessed, that they've got the looks they have, they got the money they have, they got all this that they have. Right? So in the possessions, if you don't want them to sort of get less than what they have, in other words, you like literally bless them by saying, Alhamdulillah, you've got so much. May Allah even given you more. So that kind of jealousy is like is like it's fine. There's no harm in that jealousy because you're not wishing them less than what they have. You in fact wishing them more, and may Allah even bless them more. Now, only a good-hearted person will have that kind of good jealousy. Right? Generally, the jealousy is of the other type, which is the evil type, where where you look at somebody who's got more than you, then you cringe in your heart and say, now, why does he or she have all this? Why haven't I been given this? Then if you have that kind of jealousy, what you are doing now is you're questioning Allah's wisdom, because Allah in essence gave him or her that more and gave you perhaps a bit less, and because you've got less, now you're questioning Allah, or you having this hatred in your heart to say, I wish that he doesn't have more. Well, I wish that his wealth must just burn or come to an end, or there must be a riot, or there must be his shop must burn down, or something. You wish that kind of evil wish to him. That is the hasad that is of a bad type, and that Allah must protect us all from having that. And then the last concept is shar, which is just the evil, the evil of all the different things. But shar is to do with evil with the intention of doing harm to somebody. Okay, so we move on to the surah itself, al-Falaq, and we'll do Nas in another episode. So it starts off with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Say I seek protection in the Lord of daybreak. And then we talk of the four evils, min sharri ma khalaq, or min sharri ghasikin idha waqab, nafasat fil uqad, and hasidin idha hasad. Now, if you look at verse 2, the evil that he has created is Allah has the power to create good and evil, and he has power over everything. Right? Now, if evil does strike us, we, from a point of view of belief in him and his power, we shouldn't be blaming him or blaming Allah for the evil that beset us. Say, for instance, tomorrow a famine strikes in South Africa. We shouldn't be blaming Allah to say, you know what, you caused this drought and we are now suffering, like that's not the way we should address this calamity that might befall you. Likewise, when you fall sick, You don't now blame Allah to say, why you made me sick or something. Instead, what we must do is ask him for the shifa, because like he's created sickness, he's also created the shifa, the antidote for it. So we need to ask him for the shifa, the cure and the remedy, and take the evil, the sickness away and make us perfectly normal again in terms of our health. So that's our relationship to this evil that he has created. We don't begrudge him or think evil about Allah as a result of this other aspect of Kriya, of the evil that he has also created. And also sometimes this things comes as a test to us, to test your faith, that would you, after just getting one difficulty or one obstacle in your life, will you now turn your heels and face the other way and go and denounce your religion and say, "Hey, I don't believe in God anymore because look at what he's done to me." That shouldn't be our nature. Allah has created these. He's sometimes testing you, sometimes by taking your wealth away or your health away or something that you have earned or that you've worked hard for. But Allah tests you and say, now, I've tested you. Well, how's your reaction going to be? If it's going to be where you'll kind of be patient and endure it and make dua still to say, please remove this difficulty from me, then you're on the right path. But if you turn up back and you say, no, I'm going to become an atheist now because of this evil, then obviously you don't, because you've now moved out of the fold of Islam and you haven't accepted the fact that Allah has this power of creating even evil. Right. The third ayah talks about the evil of the dark night when it settles and when it comes into full force or full swing. Now, much evils occur in the darkness of the night, such as like robbery, where people, do robberies where they don't want to be seen or don't want to be recorded on video or whatever. So they purposely do these things late at night. Then we have other kinds of evils like in discos and in nightclubs where music is played, liquor is consumed, drugs are consumed, where and then even evil, where you have illicit relations developing and even prostitution, you know, that also happens late in the night. So we need to be protected from the evil of the darkness of the night when it is really dark and when all these things happen in full force. And to avoid all that, the advice is avoid going out late at night and try and avoid even going to these places. One, one verse that comes to mind in Surah An-Nur, where they talk about fornication and adultery. The verse there doesn't say that you must avoid fornication directly. It says, don't come close to fornication. Right? So, in other words, don't even go to the disco, where that might be a stepping stone to fornication as the next step, where you find a partner and before you know what, you've gone to bed and the rest is now then history. So the idea of evil is that you must try and avoid it even in its initial phases, rather than saying, no, nothing will happen to me. I'm strong. I'll be able to go into a disco and come out there on the other side without any evil having touched me. But in reality, you're immersing yourself in an evil environment. So how can you expect to be really safe? The best savior for that type of environment is to don't go there in the first place. Right? So this is the evils that we need to be safeguarding ourselves from. Right, then we look at particular ayats. The first two ayats talk about the Falaq and the evil of what he has created. Now, the Falaq, the other shades of meaning. Now, here we talked of Falaq meaning the daybreak. In other words, when night was there, the day came out of the night. In other words, the rays of the morning sun like cut through the darkness, like ripped through the darkness and made the day come out of that darkness, right? So that's one meaning of the falak, the daybreak. Then uh, he is also, Allah is known as the Falik ul Hab wan Nawa, the Falik, the one who is able to break open the seed and make a grain or a plant sprout. Now, only he has that power to do. So you can plant a seed, but you'll never know whether it will grow or not, whether you've given enough water, whether it's the right season, whether it will even grow in the place that you've planted it, whatever. You don't know all these things about that seed and the potential of that seed. All you're doing, maybe as a potential farmer, is you're planting it, and you pray to Allah that He must allow that seed to sort of pop open and become a plant. So He's the one that opens seeds and allows vegetation to come forth and thrive. Then the other kind of falak that happens, in nature is when rain rips through clouds. So clouds form, and from from those clouds, rain like comes out, gushes out, drops out of that. And likewise, even in the process of childbirth, we have a baby ripping out through the womb. Where in the process of childbirth, the baby comes out of the womb and comes out alive as a new human being. So Allah is the master of this birth or creation processes, and it's happening daily, and is there to see and there to admire and respect about His ability to be the Falaq, the person that can make things up, to change things, and also to bring about, like in this case, even though there was nightfall, and we are asking to save us from the evils of the night, but when daybreak is like a source of optimism once again after that nightfall that just passed. So we should look at daybreak with a positive view, although these evils are permeating in society and they are there all the time. Now, one hadith by Uqba ibn Amir, he asks somebody, "Do you know what falak is?" And the answer to that was, it's actually another name for the doors of hellfire, that when they open, Jahannam gets more infuriated, and in it are all the tyrants and the dictators and the pharaohs of the age and the era. So all those people that are burning in that fire, the doors of hellfire is also called a falak, that it kind of just wants to break open and, find relief from this fire itself. And falak can also be certain kinds of evil people, that they create this issue of evil around us. So we know that Allah is the Samad. He is the one that nourishes everybody, that's able to allow continuity in life, and everything relies on Him and His sustenance and His uniqueness to cater and fend for everything that's around us. So Shar has got a dark tinge to it, which is the evil associated with darkness and jealousy. And Luqman at another level says in Surah Luqman, Shirk is a zulmun azim, which is a very, very strong oppression. Right? Zulm. Oppression is a great shirk in itself. So if you are oppressing people around you, whether it's your spouse or your maid or whoever else you might have in your circle of friends, remember that making zulm on them is actually tantamount to what shirk is, where you're associating partners and you're trying to be like Allah and doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Okay? So we must avoid that. Right, then we go on to the last slide for today. So these are the three evils that we spoke about. Now, the hasad, the jealous one, Ustad Noman talks about this one interesting case. He says, in the USA, some Muslim sort of shop owners, they say the FBI gets calls from Muslims where one Muslim claims that the Muslim across the road in that shop is a terrorist. Right? And all because they want the state to sort of close that shop down so that his own shop can thrive. Now, this is hasad at another level where you actually going to your enemy to close down a fellow Muslim brother's business or concern. And you can see how people like they go crazy with jealousy can have no limits. I mean, people will stoop to all kinds of levels just to get the better over you and sometimes to succeed and make you come down. So if that is your attitude, then you really are hasid, a person that's got the evil kind of jealousy, and you must check your faith once more. So the hasid, the person who's got hasad in him, does harm behind your back. So he doesn't tell you, but he's doing this on behind your back. And what he does, he goes out of his way to be jealous on you. So he goes to a sorcerer, Sangoma, to say, please do this to this person so that I can be successful and he can be a failure. And so the sorcerer is the actual main like go-between and the main problem here, because you are actually like the person trying to do this pays money to the Sangoma to do this evil witchcraft on somebody else. Now, when you do it like that, then you are really the evil shaitan person that that needs attention. So you need to sort your own faith out, because when you do this to other people, Allah is watching you. And what it also means is you're not believing in that there's a Maliki Yawmiddin, that there's a day of reckoning and a day of accountability where you will have to show and come clean of all the evil deeds that you might have done in your life, and hasad is perhaps one of them. Right. It also says ida in the last line, which means when he acts it out. So in other words, this evil person that's got jealousy envy in his heart, he not only intends to do it, but he actually acts it out. So the ida is confirming that he's going to do something about it. He'll even pay to get somebody to do it. And then he's hoping that it works. It does happen in that life like that, so that he comes on top and the other one goes down. Now, we shouldn't have what is called sometimes a PhD syndrome. PhD is normally a doctor of philosophy, but some people have this notion of pull him or her down. They have that notion that only I must be successful and anybody else must be pulled down. So if you are that type of person, then you are actually a real problem. Right. So in order to avoid all these evils, what the advice is that we must crush or keep our egos under control. So even if you don't get credit for doing something that you did well, you can still continue doing it, because sometimes you'll find we spend inordinate time fighting for something that is not for you, wasn't meant for you, but you want it in any way, and you want it so badly that you're prepared to go to all these evil routes to get to it. Then really that's a real big problem. So please avoid that and try and keep our egos under control and under check, and inshallah we'll be successful in that regard. Right, with that we can end today's session with reading of Wal Asr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal Asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqq, wa tawasaw bis sabr.